This is Mind Wars. I'm Chris Ryan, and on today's show, I've got Justin Zalewski, who is the author of Thriving in a Toxic World. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me, and it's great to be here.
Well, what I want to ask you first, basically, is I know we were talking before we actually start recording, but you were saying about your actual book itself. It took you at least 10 years to actually write the book. So I want to go back in time a small bit and go back to year one, or just before it, when Justin was sitting there at home, for example, and said, right, I need to take action. I feel this urge. I need to write a book. And did you ever think, starting out, you probably had a plan in your mind thinking maybe it might take me 12 months, maybe 24 months. Take us through that process and journey that basically took at least 10 years in the end to get?
So I suppose initially, you just come to the realization that, you have a lot of information in your head and that you would like to put it into a format that other people could have the benefit of that information. But the thing is that initially when I thought I was writing a book, I thought I was writing a book about nutrition. But the more I researched, the more I dug deeper into how our whole society and the system works, I just realized that the whole system was completely and utterly rigged. And so to work my way through that, to try and figure out what was really going on, was just a total minefield, because the people that I thought could be trusted, that were supposed to be giving me information that was credible, when I actually went to evaluate it and dig through it, I realized that these people were absolutely lying through their teeth. And so in reality, the regulatory bodies that are there that are supposed to protect us, most of them are completely captured, are owned by the corporations that they're supposed to be policing. And so they do what they're basically told, and they get to write the laws in which they live under. And in America, they've got a nice term for it. Well, it's state-sponsored bribery, but what they call it is lobbying. And so in America, if you've got a law that you don't like, you can pay somebody an immoral truckload of cash to go and see if they can get that law amended, altered, or adjusted in a way that suits you. Now, in any truly ethical or democratic society, that shouldn't be allowed, that you can influence the regulators of the industry that you're in. And so there was people like the American Dietetic Association that were telling us that aspartame was safe. Now, anybody, unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the last few years, would know that aspartame E951 is a horrible, toxic, poisonous artificial sweetener that is 180 times sweeter than sugar. And the reason that they use that crap is, first of all, it's highly addictive, but also chemicals cost pennies compared to having to buy real sugar that had to be grown from a plant. And so when you have organizations like that telling you that aspartame is safe, you think, well, what else are they lying about? Because other information that may have seemed credible, you realize that, this doesn't add up. So then I started to dig a lot deeper. And I thought, well, who actually sponsors the American Dietetic Association? And back then it was it was Pepsi, Hershey, Abbott Nutrition, Johnson & Johnson, and all these horribly corrupt organizations. And when you do a search on them, every one of them, I think, except one out of the list of 10 that I wrote about, were all involved in bribery, corruption, fraud, scandals, and all sorts of stuff, including companies dumping bags of mercury from mercury thermometers in landfill, which anybody that knows about mercury is a horribly toxic metal. And so they were caught doing all this sort of stuff. And not only that, these people run degrees in universities. So, and then when you look at their list of rules and regulations about if you want to be affiliated with their organization, all these rules keep you from not having a personal view, from not speaking out, and it basically teaches conformity and compliance, and you're not allowed to have your own opinion, or you're not allowed to have a conscience, or a conscience that doesn't suit our outcome. And so when I realized that, I then started to look at other organizations like the CDC, which is supposed to be the Center for Disease Control, which would probably be more accurately called criminality, deception, and corruption. And these people basically mandate vaccines, which they hold many patents to. So it's a bit like saying you have to buy from me and we're making it law that you do. And so you've got the FDA that's supposed to regulate the environment in America. Then in Europe, you've got the European Health Regulatory Authority. You've got the Skin Foundation, which is a charity. And for 20 grand, I think that was their last price, you can get their seal of approval. Now, it doesn't matter if the products that you sell cause cancer. As long as you pay your 20 grand, you'll get the seal of approval. And it's nothing to do with protecting the public, and it's all about generating revenue. And so every single aspect of it is monetized. And any organization that say your industry causes massive cancer, you could then go and donate large amounts of money to the American Cancer Foundation or any one of these cancer charities. And those people will then portray your product in a very favorable light, instead of saying, well, you know, if you eat it in moderation, it's be okay, and studies show. And so what has happened now is that science has become whatever it is you're willing to pay for. So I could get a scientist to say, well, you know what, Chris, you've got a beard. Men with beards have this problem and our research can show us. And somebody will go out and make shit up, or they will obscure the data in such a way that they will get you the result you're looking for. And this is the thing about science. In true science, they would have to show full disclosure about, well, we tried all these things and this is the side effects. But they don't. They can select 1 out of 50 studies, and that one study is the study that suits our outcome. And they're allowed to withhold or delete the other 49 studies that clearly show that there was a massive problem with whatever it is they were selling. And so we just have an entirely corrupted system that the people that we think are protecting us in most cases are actually harming us. And they're harming us so much more because we think that we're safe, so then we let our guard down. And the thing about it is that you should trust absolutely no one. Do your own research. And if you do want to trust somebody, that you are absolutely certain that you've done your due diligence, that you've heard from multiple sources, and that you can trust that person, that you know they have absolute integrity. And in this world, there's very, very few people like that I would trust, that I know if they say it, it's absolutely true.
And regards the actual, say, the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry, how was your findings as you were going along into that 10-year period alone? I know you said at one stage even that links that you had originally started off with to kind of show and prove, like to marry up with what you were saying as well, they're just completely gone now.
So I've been researching probably for about 15 years, but incredibly intensely for at least the last 10. And so when you put in a search term into Google, if you said, let's say, I don't know, just pick anything random, right? Oranges cause cancer, right? You could put that in and you could have got 20 different things coming down. People saying it could, and that's nonsense or whatever. And you would have a whole breakdown. Now what you'll get is agendas from corporations that are owned and captured, or that have a vested interest in keeping you sick. And so the information, because I've searched this information before, if I want to review something and I look, from now to ever find anything, I mean, Google is a horrible, horrible company, really highly unethical. They trade your data in so many ways, and our data is the new gold. But the thing about it is that all that stuff's being completely censored like you couldn't imagine. I'm talking probably at least 95 to 98% of the stuff that used to be online has disappeared, or it's buried in some very, very obscure place that it's virtually impossible to find. Like, there's articles that I would have referenced 2 or 3 years ago that have been there a long time. I've went to find it and I can't find it. Only I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'll maybe try 10 or 15 search terms, and eventually I may, and only in a small number of cases, I may find that article. So the censorship and the search engine algorithms now are absolutely loaded to shape our perception in such a way that whatever people think is going on now, this version of reality, this delusion that people are living in, that they're trying to make it as if that's normal, and it's not. It's totally abnormal, and we're being manipulated in ways that you couldn't imagine. And I remember one thing recently, and I mentioned before, was that Facebook in an internal memo was boasting that it could analyze 6 million pieces of data about you per second. Like, that's an insane amount of information. And so for me, I personally would never use Facebook Messenger, because in their terms and conditions, you're agreeing that they can have access to your camera, to your microphone, your photographs, and all your personal information. So I choose not to do that. But so when I was researching, this information was freely available. It's probably be about at least 90% harder, because that stuff is so incredibly difficult to find, and it would be a very different experience. But the one thing that I do notice is they're censoring people on every platform like you couldn't imagine, all the mainstream like YouTube, Google, Facebook, and all that stuff. But it has given rise to this new wave of people that are hungry for consciousness, that are hungry for information, that know that the whole system's corrupt, it's rotten to the core, and that has now mobilized people into massive armies that are now reclaiming their power. And although we're not seeing this on mainstream media, it is happening, and you can see it in the background with all these different people that I've been following for 10, 15 years. And you'll see them all going through their censorship battles. They're coming out the other side. And from being somebody that normally didn't have that much of a profile, their exposure in the large mainstream has completely disappeared. But in the underground stuff, they are like rock stars now, and people really want to hear from them. And so they have, by their censorship and their control, given birth to a whole new level of consciousness that are people that are now being forced to awaken into the reality of what's really going on.
And why do you think it's consistent? I've noticed myself, like, I mean, it's been going on for years, but especially in the last 6 months or so, I mean, they've taken it to a whole new level as well. And you feel it's like a lot of the lobby groups, telecommunication centers, Silicon Valley, you know, they're all pretty much in each other's bed, and they're all pushing out what they want, because we know a lot of this is not actually for the health and safety of the people that are out there on the planet, although they'd like to articulate it in that kind of a way. But it's generally, it sends up a red flag for me when they talk about it's in your interest, in your safety, Chris, or whoever it might be. Then that kind of, for me, sends off alarm bells, because you can pretty much reverse that on its head and kind of go, no, that's for your vested interest in your back pocket and for world domination. What's your thoughts on that?
So to me, most of the things that they try to sell us is dressed up as some benefit, but in most cases, they're always a Trojan horse. You know, so when they say like the war on terror has done nothing but created more terrorists, and it was just another smokescreen to get people to comply with the illusion of more security, but they had to trade their freedom to get that. And so we don't have more freedom and we don't have more security, we just have more government control. And so, I mean, we're living in a world where they really want to microchip every single person. They want you to have a passport so that you can't travel unless you have your documentation up to date. And this is a personal thing for me. You know, we're in this middle of this coronavirus scamdemic, and to me, it's the biggest fraud in history ever. And I don't know if many people can say this, but not once have I had a face mask on, not one squirt of that toxic triclosan, sodium or benzyl alcohol, cancer-causing crap have I squirted in my hands once, and not one temperature check have I had, and nor will I ever be doing one. To me, this is where they realized that people were waking up. There's a video, it's 18 minutes long, and I have a link to it somewhere, and it's not on UK Column's website, but it's somebody showing UK Column talking, and they had documentation from a whistleblower clearly showing that the British government were saying things like, no, we have to whip up more fear and using the media because we don't have enough compliance and all this stuff. And you could see, like, we were just being completely played. And I mean, there are a few trustworthy places out there. I mean, anybody that's watching mainstream news, you know, they're lost. There's no point even talking to those people. You know, if they're in that trance, I wish them well. And if they want to continue watching that, that's fine. But for the people that realize, you know, this is just a theatrical performance and it's all total nonsense. You know, there's people that have incredible integrity, like somebody like John Pilger, that will actually tell it how it is. You know, you'll get people like David Icke will go up and say what he needs to say. They'll get people that are coming forward and saying, listen, this is all wrong, this is what's happening. And many years ago, they were all laughed at. Nobody's laughing at them now. Well, there's a few of the paid trolls and stuff are going on after them. But a lot of people now, like for somebody that was branded a fruitcake like David Icke, this guy can fill Wembley Stadium. Like, there must be a lot of really crazy people, or there must be a lot of people really awakening. But for what they would like to say about him and what he's doing, surely there couldn't be this many. But this is the thing, when the whole system, their whole illusion collapses. And for me, if you feel you need to do that stuff, that's okay. But as you're doing that stuff, dig a little deeper and look at some of the people that are saying that it's false or it's fake, or look at some of the articles. So if somebody said to me, vaccines are really safe, like, I would go, that's okay, show me the research. And they won't be able to show me the research. I will do my due diligence. My due diligence. I won't go, well, I heard it on Facebook, or somebody told me in the pub, this is what's happening, or whatever. I will go and research that stuff. But the thing about it is, you need to research stuff, and you need to validate it to your own satisfaction, not take anybody's word, including mine. I just know what I'm speaking is, in my perception of the world, my truth. Everything that I say, I can totally back up. And if I think it's an opinion about something, I'll say it's my opinion. But these people that are running the world, we are absolutely run by a cartel of crooks who all are in bed with each other. And they're all in the big boys club and we're not in it. And so what happens is that these people get the public to take the risk on any new technology until it goes through all the trials and studies and all the investment. And then after it becomes a viable option, it then gets privatized through the government, and somebody gets bought out in the government. And so the public always take the massive hit. And then the private corporations, once it's profitable, they take it and then they monetize it. And then we end up paying well over the odds for whatever it is that we want, because they're out to make as much profit as they possibly can, regardless of the consequences, and especially the emotional and environmental consequences.
Where do you see it all going? So, I mean, I personally seen it myself over the past couple of months. People that are 30, 40, 50 years of age that had never been awake before, never had any curiosity in mind, just gone on with their normal day job. When they had time off work due to the so-called coronavirus, they basically started researching, which was great to see their own bit of research they were doing. So they didn't fully understand the bigger picture, like myself, yourself, but they basically they start to ask more questions. So I think what it's done in one sense, it has woke a lot of the masses up. And I don't think a lot of these, the 1%, the powers that be in the background, probably predicted this was going to happen, I think. And I think that the tide is turning slowly but surely. We all have to do is look at Berlin last weekend, look at England, look at plenty of places around the world, and there's millions and millions of people finally rising up against it. So that's good to see in that process, all right, but there's still more work to be done.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this may sound bizarre to a lot of people, but I think coronavirus is absolutely magnificent, because what it's doing is forcing a very deeply unconscious world into consciousness, and it's amplifying everything with massive pressure. And so people are now freaking out, but people are starting to question everything. They're questioning their holidays, their air miles, their travel, their pollution, their government, the legislation, everything. And there in Canada just this week, I think like some party is saying, listen, we have collapsed Parliament, or we've set up our own jurisdiction, and we're collapsing the government and stuff like that. So I don't know how strong that will be and what will happen. And the corporate government will probably try and stamp those people out, or try and arrest them, or do something. But the thing is, it's happening, especially in the UK. There's another great movement happening that's being driven forward by Michael O'Bernicia, a great guy who he made the movie The Great British Mortgage Swindle. And he's basically saying, listen, he's done a lot of research in law, and he actually did take on the establishment through mortgages. And even though the system was unbelievably, horribly corrupt, even more than you can imagine, eventually, even when he did take it on, he did beat that system. And there's just different people throughout the world that are doing stuff that are making a massive, massive, profound difference. Another great, and probably the best out of them all, is the Pantera de Oro private society that was created by Ken Scott and his partner. And they've been doing this for, I don't know, maybe 30 years or more. And the thing is that there's a massive movement happening globally that people are being forced to awaken. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. Yes, there are a lot of people that are wearing their masks, and you'll see a few weeks ago in Australia, a bus driver was beaten to death because he wasn't wearing a mask. But the people that are running the show know that they just have to whip enough of the sort of fearful people into a frenzy, and they will then take care of the other people, and they know that, and that's one of their strategies. But the thing is, more and more people are starting to question it. And I just do see a massive shift. And I think it's an incredibly positive thing to happen. Although initially for the fearful people, it seems really scary. But to me, yes, a lot of stuff's happening, but people are really starting to awaken in ways that I don't think they have realized, but they have awakened like a sleeping giant. And now they're desperate to try and control that. But to me, too much has happened too quickly, and there's too much momentum, and all these groups are starting at, to me, I think we're in wonderful times, and we just have to ride it out. And for those of us that can relax deeply and just enjoy the journey, it's going to be wonderful. And for those fear-filled mask-wearing people, the fear is probably going to consume them, and a lot of them are going to die early because they're so fearful. They're convinced that, you know, if somebody sneezes on them, they're going to die. And that fear alone is going to severely compromise your immune system, close it down. And we're now we're now coming towards autumn, and the flu season is going to start. So the interesting thing is, not one person in 6 months has died from a car accident, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Like, everybody that's dying is dying from a fictitious disease called coronavirus. And let me be very clear. I do absolutely believe there is a virus called coronavirus, and there's been many of them, including like the SARS virus and all they're all corona components to them. But this is the thing. Who owns, they have patented the coronavirus and many patents on the coronavirus. Like, Bill Gates holds patents on the coronavirus. Why would that person want to have a patent on a virus that is supposed to be destroying humanity, unless he thinks that he can make unbelievable amounts of money on it? And like, there's clips of him on YouTube saying, you know, vaccines was the best investment he's ever made in his life. Like, this man is dressed up as a philanthropist who is from my, and this is my opinion, I just think that, you know, if the devil had a right-hand man on earth, he would be it. And the man is just blinded by his own delusions of grandeur. And even when he's speaking about giving out vaccines and how we're going to do all these different things, he can't hide the glee in his communication or smile when he's talking. And that's just my personal opinion. I just am amazed that people would even think that you know, he has any credibility in any way. But the thing is, when you've got billions and billions and billions of dollars, you can buy charities. You can buy, like, the British government, I think, took 8 billion from him. You know, like, that wasn't like, that 8 billion isn't a donation. Well, it'll come across as a donation, but from Bill Gates, that's an investment, not a donation. And so a lot of the philanthropy that he does, they then buy the products from his foundation, or not from his foundation, from other institutes that he funds or is associated with. And so this guy's making unbelievably huge amounts of money out of this. And you'll notice now in this last 6 months, the billionaires have just got incredibly, incredibly wealthy. And the people, I mean, that the middle class, we are going to end up in a financial meltdown. And the thing is that what's going to happen is that the few people at the top are going to be holding all the cards, and everybody else is going to be put into perpetual slavery if we allow that to happen. But, you know, we live in very, very interesting times, and financially, the whole world is totally bankrupt by design. And that's something that, you know, we're going to see a new evolving of humanity here. And the people that have been doing all that horrible ethical shit are going to have to face their karma. And the people that are awakened, who are in the process of awakening, you know, this is going to be a new wonderful opportunity to have a great quality of life where we actually do what's important. And we're not in this world to be here to just survive. And that's the one thing when I chose that title, Thriving in a Toxic World, because most people, if you ask them, well, how you doing, Chris? Oh, I'm surviving. Surviving is the lowest standard a human can have. It's one step above death. And to me, we have the technology, we have the consciousness, we have the desire that we can absolutely thrive. But it does mean awakening into a new way of looking at the world, to question everything. And in your interaction, and is it a win-win situation for both people, that you do something for somebody, they get a benefit and you get a benefit? Or is it like these huge corporations where they don't care if they have to rape the planet and drill it and do all sorts of stuff to get something shiny out of the ground that is going to leave generations of people with polluted water, or all sorts of negative energetic or environmental consequences? But, to me, there is a shift, and that is unstoppable. The thing is, do you want to be part of it, or do you want to go in fear and follow the herd? Because we all know where the herd usually ends up, at the slaughterhouse, and that's what's happening.
Exactly. And getting back into, say, the medical industry and stuff like that, cancer obviously being a huge one worldwide. And, obviously hospitals and doctors, a lot of these places, like, they make money simply on people being sick. And I believe there's cures and stuff out there for many, many things, but it's not in their interest to actually come out and basically give people, like, here's the cure, because they would probably lose trillions of dollars worldwide. What's your thoughts on the cancer industry?
So the cancer industry, and it is an industry, is probably, out of the whole medical religion, the most corrupt part of that medical religion. And so in the UK, they have the 1939 Cancer Act, which forbids anybody offering or talking about a cure for cancer. So if you say, I've got a cure for cancer, they will come after you and they will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And so that was an act made in 1939. And here we are, 80 years later, and they're still using that as if, like, so what, medical progress has not evolved past that. And so, to me, like, if you do get cancer, like, personally, and this will probably sound like a bold statement, but the hardest part for me to help somebody heal from cancer is to get them to realize how easy it is to do. That's usually my hardest challenge. And that may sound like a bold statement, but let me elaborate on that. If you believe the doctor's God, if you believe that you need chemotherapy, which is known to cause cancer, or you need radiotherapy, which is known to cause cancer, or they will cut something out of you, in that belief system and that model of the world of allopathic medicine, you have no chance, or a very, very small chance, of ever surviving, because you cannot poison or burn somebody back to health. And I don't know if you've ever been around somebody that's had chemotherapy, but apart from their hair falling out, in many cases, they end up with a thing called chemo brain. And chemo brain is like the person's permanently drunk, and they've basically fried the person's brain with all of these chemical compounds. And in many cases, if you spilt any of the cancer drug on the floor, you'll have to get a specialist, like, team in a hazmat suit to clean it up. And you'll see pictures of nurses that have had a drip of the chemotherapy drug on their hands, and it's just completely burnt the skin off their hands. So this stuff is horribly, horribly toxic. And the thing is, it's a bit like you have a forest, and there's one tree in the forest that is unhealthy and the rest of the forest is good. What they do is they nuke the whole forest, wipe out the whole forest, and then hope that, will actually, that some good trees will grow back and that the bad tree won't ever come back again. And what that really does with chemotherapy is it absolutely obliterates the immune system. And so the cure to any disease, is to have an incredibly high functioning immune system. And so when you get doctors that have no idea what they're talking about, or they haven't invented a medication for something that they have discovered, or they don't know what it is, in many cases, they'll just say you've got an autoimmune disease. And an autoimmune disease is where they tell you that your body basically starts attacking itself. And that's the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my life. Your body will never, ever, ever, ever turn on you. You may be putting horrible, poisonous, toxic stuff in it. You may be around electromagnetic radiation. You may be drinking alcohol or eating processed foods, or you have made of mercury poison or chronic toxicity or whatever. But they go and they try to look at the fundamental principles of health, where you need to keep the environment healthy. And the problem is that when people get cancer, what happens is that their environment becomes so utterly polluted that that internal environment can no longer function. And so the cells mutate to adapt to this new terrain. And so when people get cancer, when they go and cut the cancer out, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll cut a tumor out. And when you cut that tumor out, within 12 to 18 months, you'll have 2 to 3 tumors to replace the one you just cut out. And people think, oh, you've got a cancerous tumor. You don't have a cancerous tumor. What actually happens in your body is that your body is so toxic and you've got cancer cells in your body, it then encapsulates them into a tumor, and a lot of times into your lymph nodes, as a protective mechanism to take it out of your bloodstream and to protect you. So then when they look at you, they say, oh, you've got a tumor. They say, oh, we'll cut out a cancerous tumor. And so in the end, your body then has to create more tumors to protect you. Those tumors are our friend, just as are our lymph nodes. Now, the thing is about your lymph nodes is they're like little septic tanks or sewage plants that basically take all the toxins and encapsulate them and hold them there. But then when you alkalize your body, you clean it and you reduce the toxicity, it will then release that cancerous material back into the bloodstream and into your bowels to be eliminated and urinated out and stuff like that. But the problem is they only look at the body, see that there is a cancerous tumor, and once that happens, all you're getting is cut, poison, or burn. And if you even went to suggest to an oncologist that would diet help, or I would like to do green juices, or I would like to do alternative treatments, a lot of times the doctor will even laugh in your face. And that's the thing. The medical religion is so blinded by its own delusions of grandeur that in most cases it's virtually impossible for a common person to have a conversation with one of those people in a white coat and get any sense, because those people have went to medical school for so long that they're so brainwashed that they actually have lost the ability to cognitively think. They can, like a parrot, recite information, what they have been parroted to in their big pharma indoctrinated medical training. But the thing about it is that very few of them have the ability to actually evaluate the information that they've been given. And in many cases, there will be severe consequences for not following the prescribed protocols that the cancer industry or any other of those disciplines within the allopathic medicine religion, anything that they teach or anything that they do, like they're not allowed to be questioned. And anybody that does speak out about them, you will be punished, or their career will be assassinated, or at some level will be thrown under the bus.
And you hear a lot of myths about actual cancer itself. Some people say that it's, you know, everybody is born with it, it's there, but it takes something in later life to pretty much ignite the flame and set it off. Other people just say it's through the devastating lifestyle you have, and that's basically, you picked it up and you basically got it. Do you have any thoughts on cancer itself, where it's supposed to actually originate, or what decides one person from another? Is it simply down to lifestyle, or what's the background behind it?
Yeah, so to me, every day our body eliminates cells that are damaged or cancerous or whatever, and we just have this naturally cleansing system within our body. So that's a very natural part of our biology. But the thing about it is you have to actually work incredibly, incredibly hard to give yourself cancer. And this is the thing, your body by default is always seeking to heal itself every single day. But when you're walking about, something as simple as a mobile phone in your pocket, if you're carrying a mobile phone in your pocket, within 30 seconds of that being put into your pocket, 40% of your sperm will have been neutered. Now, I saw myself maybe more than 10 years ago lying in bed with an iPhone on my head for 3 hours talking to somebody. Where now, you know, what do? I would never carry the iPhone in my pocket if I can help it. As soon as I get in somewhere, I set it down. I would never hold the phone to my head. It's always on loudspeaker, and you should at all times avoid using a mobile phone in a car, because it has that Faraday cage effect where it amplifies the signal. And especially if your phone signal is low, it's going to end up putting out much more power, and it's become much more toxic. And the thing about it is that you have that's faulty, and you're going to develop cancer. When I went to school, I remember in my whole childhood, one person I heard about that had cancer, and it was like, did you hear somebody had cancer? And it was like this incredibly rare, like unlucky thing that came to somebody. Like when I do talks, I would say, right, who in here either has cancer or somebody in their family or friends has cancer? Can you put your hand up? And you'll find that almost 100% of the room will put their hand up. Like, that's so wrong and so preventable. Cancer is in a large part a lifestyle created illness, because what is it that's causing cancer? When you've got energy saving bulbs or LED lights in your house, they're destroying your retina. They're disrupting your circadian rhythms. Your body's not sleeping correctly. You're going to bed with blue light that's stimulating you, and especially the blue light that comes off our computers and the LED bulbs and the energy saving bulbs. That's very, very destructive to our retina. So I really would be a very environmentally friendly person, and so I had all of the energy saving bulbs in this house. But in the end, I got rid of them all because I realized the old incandescent bulbs are the ones that have the natural spectrum of light that are most healing to our eyes. And so, yes, they're energy hogs, or they're harder in energy, but they're perfect for our eyes. And so I went back and I put in the incandescent bulbs. So if you ever do want to do those, you want to use the clear ones, not the obscured glass ones. So clear incandescent bulbs are very, very beneficial to us, and will also help us to promote, natural sleep and stuff. The other thing as well is Wi-Fi. I mean, you go into any cafe, any restaurant out in public, even your own house, and you lift your phone and you go connect the Wi-Fi. Like in most cases, you'll have at least 20 choices of Wi-Fi to choose from. Now, the thing is, that could be triangulating from all those many different sources. But if you imagine where they all cross each other, there must be hotspots where they have very high levels of electromagnetic radiation. And that is known to cause a profound and very, very negative effect on our cells. So then when you get people that are not going out in the sun and getting proper adequate amounts of vitamin D, that has a negative consequence. Using microwave ovens completely destroy the food, and we should never eat out of microwave ovens. So that's very detrimental. Sugar compromises and closes down our immune systems. The water that we drink out of taps or out of plastic bottles is contaminated. And so you can't drink the tap water. And if you are drinking bottled water, then that bottled water is going to be leaking bisphenol A or BPA into the water, and when we drink it, into our bodies. And we've all had this experience. Have you ever been out on a hot day? You've left a plastic bottle of water in a car. You come back, the sun's heated it up. You drink it, and all you can taste is plastic. That's just an extreme example of how we're getting plastics. Like, we are absorbing plastic in our lifetime by the wheelie bin load in our lifetime. And that stuff is so detrimental. It's an endocrine disruptor, and our endocrine system basically tells our cells and hormones what to do and stuff like that, and it just sends it haywire. And plastics make us produce the estrogen type hormones, or estrogen mimicking hormones. So it's making men more feminine, and so men are getting too much estrogen in their bodies and not enough testosterone. But when they go to the doctor and say, well, listen, do you know what? I have erectile dysfunction. This thing's not working the way it used to. They'll give you a couple of Viagra, which no person under any circumstances should take at any time, because they'll blow your heart out. But if they do, that's what they're taking. And a lot of times the doctor will say, well, we've tested you for testosterone and you're very low on testosterone. So what we're going to do is give you testosterone injections. So then eventually, after a while, with injecting all that into you, your body stops making testosterone. And the testosterone that they're going to inject into you is definitely going to be synthetic. and that's going to have a knock-on consequence. But it's not that men do not have enough testosterone. It's that they have too much estrogen in their bodies, and a lot of that is lifestyle related. And for the women, these are more prone to ovarian cysts and breast tumors and all that sort of stuff. And it can really mess with their menstrual cycles and all that sort of stuff. So we need to get those plastics out of our bodies. Another thing that's really detrimental is the mercury fillings that we have in our teeth. I mean, there's a short video on YouTube, if it hasn't been banned yet. Well, don't know if it's been banned, it will be banned or not, but it's basically an 8-minute video showing you the harmful effects of smoking teeth. And it's basically that when they stimulate the teeth, you can see the smoke coming off the mercury. And so we need to remove that mercury from our teeth in an incredibly safe way. And 99% of dentists don't know how to do it and will end up causing more harm than good. So it's very, very important that they follow a very strict protocol where they use a rubber dam, where they capture all the liquid, all the vapor, and all the metal, and that they take all the mercury, every single aspect of it out of your teeth. Because some dentists, to make a lot of money, what they were doing is they were just drilling halfway down, filling it with a white bit on top and saying, well, thinking the person was in there for cosmetic reasons. And so we need to remove the mercury from our teeth as well. And this is the thing, if you do not filter your water, then your body's the filter. And so what is happening is there's more and more and more stress, more and more toxicity. And we're eating a lot of foods that are not natural or they're highly processed. So your body's going, where's the intelligence within this food that tells me what to do with it? So if you can imagine a piece of organic celery growing out in the garden, you take it, it's been connected to the earth, it's had like sunshine's connected to the cosmos, whatever energy, information. So when you eat that celery, your body is getting the information from the celery to tell your body what to do with it. But once you microwave something, once you process it, once you increase its shelf life, usually you're putting in lots of chemicals, especially for, say, processed meats like hams and bacon. So what they'll do is they'll use chemicals called sodium nitrite and sodium nitrate, E250 and 251. So normal ham, if you got it out of a butcher shop that was properly cooked, it might keep 1 or 2 days and then it would go off as it should. But if you get the stuff that's absolutely drenched in this chemical shitstorm, you'll get packets of ham that are 3 or 4 weeks old and they still taste the same. And all you're drinking is this chemical soup that's so marinated into the ham or the pork, or whatever it is, that, and the thing is, those things are known to cause bowel cancer and other sorts of like really horrible illnesses in your body. So it's making conscious, intelligent choices. And one of the things that's massively important is our diet. And I work with a lot of people at times, and I'll say to you, so tell me, what's your diet like? And nearly every single time they'll say, well, actually, my diet's not too bad. And you'll ask them what they're eating. And nearly in most cases, it's all total crap. And they're still using their microwave. They may get, even if they get organic potatoes are virtually useless, if not harmful to you. But the sweet potatoes would be really good for you. So you could be getting organic potatoes and you've got your veg and you've got your meat. And in general, I mean, I think people should reduce their consumption of meat, or if they could, eliminate it. But especially for chicken, I mean, a chicken used to take 120 days to reach maturity. Now they're doing it in 42 days. So how do they do that? They do it by feeding it growth promoters, antibiotics, steroids, and hormones. And then what happens is that they're feeding that shit to their children. Or if you go to the food company from hell, McDonald's, not only are they using that processed chicken, but they also use another chemical called dimethyl polysiloxane. So what is dimethyl polysiloxane? It is a silicone caulk that they use, or a silicone grease that they use and stuff like that. They use it in all sorts of machinery and stuff like that. And they use it and they add it to the chicken because McDonald's chicken is mechanically extracted from the carcass. And so what they end up with is this really pink sludge. So then they bleach the pink sludge white and they add in the dimethyl to stop it foaming. And then that's shipped into your 100% pure chicken McNuggets. And then they're feeding that shit to their kids. And this is the thing. I don't know if you're a fan of Roger Waters, but many years ago, he was doing a concert in Dublin called The Wall. And you're familiar with the video. I think it came out in 1979 with a song they sing, "Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone." So when you see that video and you watch it, all those boys and girls all look that they're around 13 or 14 years of age. And when you look at that video, not one of them has a set of breasts. And now you're getting boys as young as 9 that have got bigger breasts than the girls. And this is the thing. You think that's bad, then you think, oh, well, I'll take fish. Fish is okay. Well, all that farm fish, again, are being fed the growth promoters, the antibiotics, the steroids, and the hormones, and especially for salmon. Farm salmon doesn't look very pink, so then they actually dye the fish pink. And so you're getting the color additives as well. And so we should never eat farm fish. If you're going to eat anything, at least eat wild caught fish. If you want to take the risk with the heavy metals and the PCBs and all the contamination from the sea, because our sea was used as a dumping ground for the last 100 years. And people have forgot about it, but Fukushima is pumping out 300 tons of radioactive waste every single day into the ocean. Now, if it's been doing that for, I don't know how long is it now, maybe a decade or something around that, give or take a few years. I can't remember exactly. But that's getting pumped out into the sea. So to me, eating anything out of the sea whatsoever is an incredibly precarious pursuit. And if you are going to eat something, at least eat something that's wild caught. But again, people eat prawns and lobsters and stuff. And this is the thing. The bottom of the ocean is where all the contamination goes first. And so you never, ever want to eat any bottom feeders out of an ocean. Seriously. It's going to be where if there's any shit land, that's where the dust settles. And to me, like, if somebody said, look, would you eat a lobster for £1,000? I would just, no way would I want to play that game of Russian roulette with my health. And we're just living in very interesting times where our air, our water, and our soil are all being systematically polluted by corporations for money. And yet anybody that wants to stand up and say, listen, we want clean air, we want clean water, and we want clean food is treated like a conspiracy theorist or an activist, or they're frowned upon. Like, they've normalized insanity and make the people that are standing up saying, listen, we want to have a healthy life. Oh, you are nutcases, you are crazy. But the tide is turning, and, you know, there's so many aspects that all tie into having outstanding health and vitality. And all those aspects that I've mentioned are incredibly important, but the most important one of all is, where do you live emotionally? And most people are chronically stressed, they're worried, they've got limiting beliefs or things that hold them back. And if you're living in fear and stuff like that, all those things are going to close down your immune system, and they're going to make you more susceptible to getting ill. And that's the thing, when we get stressed out, as a protective mechanism, our body produces adrenaline and cortisol. And that gives us our fight or flight, that boost that we needed. But when that's running all the time, what happens is the body goes, well, what can we do to save energy here? So the first thing it does is closes down the immune system. Because in the olden days, if the saber-toothed tiger was going to chase us, it would be good to have that amount of adrenaline that you can run like the wind for maybe 100 yards. And then you're okay. But to have that running nonstop all day, every day, is really, really, you're going to get adrenal fatigue. And then the next thing it does is it closes down your elimination system. So that's why people get really, really sick when they get stressed, because their immune system is severely compromised and they can't get the toxins out of their body. And so we now live in a world where the majority of the population are incredibly stressed out of their minds, and virtually very few people can actually relax.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like a silent killer inside. And a quick story, even I was over in New Zealand a couple of years back, and got to know this couple. And the guy was only 28 years of age. He had 3 or 4 kids. And like most fellas, they said, oh, I'm all right. He's complaining of a headache here and there, nothing too major. And eventually the wife made him go to the doctor. Went to the doctor. Long story short, he basically said, come back to me in a few days. We'll give you results of this, this, and this. And within a week, the doctor basically rang him and he says, the information I have, I can't give it over the phone. You need to come into the actual doctor's apartment itself. So he came in with the wife. That was on a Monday. And basically he told me, he said, there's no easy way of saying this. He says, you're only 28. It's bad at any age, he says. But he said, pretty much your whole body is riddled with cancer, lymph node cancer. He named out a whole lot of them inside in it. And he goes, pretty much, I'm giving you 6 weeks to live. That was on a Monday. His wife found him dead in the bed Friday morning. Not even a full week had passed. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying in a sense, and we spoke a bit before we started recording as well, was the power of the doctor and the psychology of it and the belief certain people have in the system. I mean, his wife said straight away that she said she's sorry that they put any figure at all in it. She reckons a lot of that actually ended up killing him, and because the fear and the whole shock at that age alone and not expecting kind of news like that on the day, that it totally obliterated his whole system. And he couldn't even survive the 6 weeks. He was dead within 5 days.
So this is a very real scenario where imagine that this doctor actually got the wrong file and that they realized that he was 100% healthy. That still could have happened exactly the way he said it did, because he will at some level. So I've done hypnosis now for probably about 17 years. And this is the thing. When somebody puts on a white coat, the person in many cases goes into hypnosis. And so how does hypnosis really work? Or how do phobias work? Or how do people get, like an intense fear of spiders or heights or whatever? And it's what happens is that whenever you're in a state of a peak emotional intensity, your unconscious mind will photograph that, and that will become like a program that will be installed in his unconscious. So if you come over across a car accident, there's somebody lying in a car upside down, their legs hanging off, the blood running out of them, the first person that sees him is of the utmost importance. Because if you get a paramedic and he goes, oh my God, your leg's hanging off, I don't know if you're going to make it, you're going to have to lose a leg. That person has a very good chance of not making it to the hospital. But if I walked up and I saw that person, I'd say, wow, aren't you so lucky I'm here? Listen, if you do exactly what I say, you're going to make a full recovery. You're leaking a bit of blood, but you're going to keep it together. And as you relax very deeply, you'll notice that your body will start to heal itself. And you're going to be totally fine. And you can just trust that your unconscious mind will do this beautifully. And that person is so desperate, and what they need is reassurance and certainty in a place where they're incredibly traumatized and a state of incredible shock. So whatever you say to a person in shock or in a state of peak emotional intensity is of the utmost importance. And a lot of times that person, the fact that he said, oh, you're going to have to come into the office, I can't tell you, he had already pre-framed it that it was something really negative. Instead of saying, could you come down with a few things we need to discuss, I'm not really sure. The guy could have come down, but by the time he got down there, whatever was being said was confirming his worst nightmare. And so the way we deliver our message is of the most crucial importance. And to me, that doctor, even though he doesn't realize it, probably had a massive contributing factor to that person dying prematurely. See, the thing is that doctors in that system, they just tell you, this is what happened, this is what we see, this is how long you're going to live. Instead of saying, listen, I don't know if you've got a lot of fear, you may only get a few months, but I've seen people with this condition that 20 years later are still thriving. But the thing is, they're in the cancer industry and they're told what to say and how to deliver that message. And to me, I don't know, but if that man had those results, to me, I've no doubt that if he was willing to hear what I had to say and to apply it, there was a very high probability that he could have healed himself from that. Because what is it that gave him the cancer? We don't know, but it's most likely going to be lifestyle related. What did he work at? What was his lifestyle? Did he drink a lot of alcohol? Had he a lot of stress? Did he work around a huge amount of high voltage electrical appliances? Was he getting on well in his relationship? Did he exercise? Did he smoke? Did he do whatever? All these factors make a massive, massive difference. And the thing is, when I said earlier about the allopathic medicine where you get the cut, poison, burn, like this is the most common thing I hear time and time again. Let's say I had cancer X amount of years ago and then went back for a checkup last year and they said to me, oh, we're sorry to tell you, but the cancer came back. And my answer is always the exact same answer. And it's, do you know what? The cancer never came back. It never went away. What the cancer is like, it's imagine you had a front lawn and you see a few weeds growing in the lawn. You go out with the lawnmower and you mow the lawn and you go, wow, look, no weeds. That's okay. You can't see any weeds. But you know what? Until you've dealt with the root cause of why the cancer developed in the first place, all you're doing is decorating the prison or you're massaging the front end of what you see. But in the background, all this stuff is still going on below the surface. And the thing that you need to deal with most importantly is your emotional state and where do you live emotionally. And then after that, what you have to do is start getting clean water, clean air, clean food, get your socks and shoes off, walk barefoot along the earth. And one thing that people don't realize is that you need to optimize your vitamin D levels. When you don't have enough vitamin D in your body, there are so many functions in your body that will not function correctly because you just need vitamin D to make it work. And so a lot of people, and for me personally, I avoided the sun for 20 years because I believed the mainstream media bullshit that the sunbathing gives you cancer. That couldn't be further from the truth and a total crock of shit. So if you want to sunbathe, and you should, you want to go out in the sun as much as you possibly can in the middle of the day until your skin goes the slightest color of pink. Once it goes the slightest color of pink, you want to get out of the sun, because if you don't, then you're going to cause premature skin aging and you're going to increase your risk of getting skin cancer. So that's where you could damage yourself. Now, once you have been out in the sun and you've got the slightest color of pink, the next thing you want to do is then get out of the sun, but don't have a shower if you can help it for 24 to 48 hours after you've been in that sun, because that vitamin D is still synthesizing on our skin for that amount of time. But if you feel you need a shower, that's okay. Take a shower, but don't use any soaps or detergents or body washes. But if you really feel you need to, you can use a bit under your arms and your groin, and that's it. But the other thing as well is that if you're out in the sun and you want to stay out longer, then you never use commercial sunscreens under any circumstances. They're full of benzyl alcohol, sodium lauryl sulfate, and titanium dioxide, and lots of other chemicals that cause cancer. And so what happens is you put this toxic shit on your skin, and then you go out and you bake in the sun, and that gets absorbed transdermally. It just means through your skin and into your bloodstream. So a simple thing would be, like if you go into a swimming pool and you're in that swimming pool for 20 minutes, you will have detectable levels of chlorine in your blood after 20 minutes of being in a swimming pool. And so a golden rule that you should never break is never, ever put anything on your skin that you cannot eat. And if you can't eat it, you can't put it in your skin, because if you do, it's getting absorbed into your bloodstream. And like for years, I put my hands in all sorts of stuff, and wouldn't occur I've got bleach my hands or engine oil or whatever. And now I realize just how absolutely crucial it is to keep that stuff away from us. But to me, you want to get out in that vitamin D, and that sunshine is the best way to get it rather than getting it out of a bottle. The other thing as well is that if you want to use some natural sunscreens, like raw organic coconut oil has a sun protection factor 3, as does raw organic cacao butter. But there's other things like raspberry leaf oil. I can't remember exactly, but it's like a sun protection factor of maybe 28 or 30 or something very high. So you can put that on. And so there's really healthy alternative solutions that really allow us to thrive. But the thing is that you're never going to hear that on television, and nobody's advertising it because there's no money to be made out of it. But we need to really value our health. And this is the thing, when I work through people's values and rules and their hierarchy, and a lot of times they'll say, well, tell me what's the 5 most important things to you in your life. And 5, not one of them includes health. And then they wonder why they're not healthy. But if it's not in your values, what's going to happen is that if you value success more than health, you'll stay late and you'll work to 12 o'clock at night under an artificial light in front of an artificial screen. And you'll be like jacked up with all this blue light that won't let you sleep, and then you're not sleeping properly, you're sleep deprived, your circadian rhythms are out of balance, you're eating junk food, you're eating at the wrong times, and all of a sudden your whole body just gets completely knocked out of balance. And so this is the thing where we really need to have balance and harmony in our lives, and most people don't take the time to look after themselves. And then when they get this beautiful, perfect feedback called an illness, they run to the doctor for what they think is a cure. But in most cases, you're never cured. Allopathic medicine only ever treats the symptoms, but it never deals with the root cause of why it developed in the first place. And so treating symptoms, just like if you've got eczema or anything, you go to the doctor and all they'll do is give you steroid creams to force it back down into your body when your body's screaming, going, get this toxic shit out of me. And, you need to stop putting it in the first place. But the thing is, we live in an inside out, back to front, upside down world where, everything that we think is beneficial for us in many cases is the actual opposite.
Even some of the health shops and stuff like that, they're obviously great at advertising and marketing, and simple examples like Boots, Holland and Barrett, a place like this, certain things will be jacked up prices inside, and nobody obviously knows what's actually going into this stuff, but they're so marketed so well and so fancy in the colors and everything else that people obviously buy into this and they think they're getting the best of the best. You'll have a good store manager inside over that particular section. I've seen it myself before, and he's wearing the whole part, the suit, the whole lot of the white stuff, and he thinks this is for you, this is not for you. And I know you've uncovered an awful lot of stuff in that kind of area, in these particular places that sell themselves the illusion of these sort of health shops, but behind it all, you've uncovered it's actually far from that.
Yeah. For me, at one stage, I sold my own brand of superfood and supplements online. And I probably had 150 products of things like maca powder, Horseshoe Woo, Sheila Jeet, Goji Berries, Bee Pollen, Spirulina, MSM, Chlorella, and, like horny goatweed, Mucuna purines, lots of stuff like that, for anybody that knows what I'm talking about. And so all the stuff that I had would have been organic where possible, 100% pure powder, and as ethically sourced as I could possibly find it. But a few years ago, I actually was considering buying a health food shop. And I just thought, I could move in that and I could then sell my superfoods and I could sell some of the health foods. And when I went in and looked at the health foods and what they sold, and then I looked at their leading brand of supplements, and their leading brand of supplements was responsible for something like 40% of their business. It was insane. And when I looked at it in the company, and like, this is the thing, if you don't know anything about supplements, like you'll probably know more than 99% of the health food store, people that own health food stores. And that is that if the company is interested only in money, they'll put junk in the supplements. So they'll use titanium dioxide, silicone dioxide, calcium carbonate, and what's the other one? There's one other, calcium carbonate, titanium, silicone dioxide, and there's one other one that'll come to me. I'll send me unconscious off to find that in a second. But the problem with it is that these are all junk fillers and bulking agents and excipients that make the machines run at a very high speed. So I wanted to get my own supplements made, and the guy said, well, actually that'll cost you like 3 times the price. And I said, why? And he says, well, we'll have to turn the machine down to 1/3 of the speed, because if we don't put the junk in, the other one was magnesium stearate. Thank you, unconscious. And so the thing is that they then put all these flow agents in that allow the machines to run at incredibly high speeds. So the people that are in it for the money will put the shit in to lubricate it, and the people that are not will pay the extra money and won't do it. intelligently. You have to research, and if you want to get supplements, make sure that they don't have any one of those 4 ingredients, because they are pure absolute junk. And that's how they make, you go into certain health food shops and buy one get a second one for a penny. You're still getting ripped off at a penny for the second one, because it's just pure crap. And the reason they can sell it for a penny is because there's nothing of substance in it in the first place. And just as a standard rule, you'll never go into a supermarket and find, well, we'll give you 2 high quality organic something for the price of 1. Proper real food is never discounted, because they can't discount it, because that actual ingredient costs a lot of money. So if you had, I don't know, something very natural and organic and it was £2, it might be reduced to 150 or 175, but you're not going to get buy one get one free in nearly any place, because it has real food, real ingredients, stuff that actually took time to develop in nature. And so if you're getting one for a penny, that's a good indicator that you're buying nothing but total crap. And so to me, a lot of these supplements are just, not only are they a complete waste of money, in many cases they're actually detrimental to your health. And I think it was like maybe last year, I was walking through, like I normally wouldn't walk through this aisle, but I was walking through an aisle that was, I don't know, for some reason it had women's pregnancy supplements in it. And I wouldn't have even looked at them, because I thought, well, they're probably just going to be crap anyway. Well, I know they're going to be crap if they're in a supermarket in Sainsbury's. And I took a look, and then I saw that the supplements for the pregnant women were security tagged. And that got my attention. I just went, right, I have to actually see this. And when I read it, it must have had, I don't know, like 4 or 6 of the most toxic pieces of crap. Like a pregnant woman, if somebody said to you, listen, we'll give you £100 per capsule that you swallow, you would tell them to piss off. Like there's no way you would do that. And these things were like £26 or whatever for these supplements. And it's absolutely criminal, because the people that are making this shit know that it's totally poisonous, toxic crap, but they still choose to make it, manufacture it, and sell, because they don't care about your health. But they've been advertised on TV, and people see because they're on TV, they must be good. No, as a very, very simple indicator about any food or any supplements on TV, if it's advertised on TV, you cannot eat it. Now, there may be the very odd, obscure exception to that rule, but it will be incredibly rare. And I'm talking like you'd be lucky if you saw something on a television once every 5 years that may not violate that criteria. But to me, all that stuff's highly processed, total junk, and we shouldn't ever be buying our supplements from anybody that actually is selling or advertising it on TV.
Yeah, it was like, if you remember years and years ago, it was you had doctors lobbying with the actual, or the other way around, with the actual tobacco industry. I mean, saying smoking was okay, it's fine for you. I mean, but how dare you back then kind of say it and against that, but what you know now to back then, I mean, it makes no sense at all.
I know, but this is the thing, is that there's no regulatory authority with any integrity that could ever, like, to me personally, they should be completely banned. They are so horribly toxic and so wrong. And like, you look at any of those supplements and you lift them up, and they'll either have one of them or all of them. That those ones there had those 4, and I think another couple of other nasties that were just thrown in for good measure. But to me, I was just thinking, like you couldn't have got, like, usually when I look at supplements, they've got some of them or sometimes all of them. But these were probably, without exaggeration, the worst supplements that I had ever seen. Now, I'd say if you went into the pound shop, you might find something even nastier. I don't know. But like, these were as nasty as I have ever seen. And these were being promoted and marketed to pregnant women. That is so wrong. It's criminal. And these people should be prosecuted for what they're doing. But, nobody bats an eye, and a lot of people don't know that you can trust that actually has your best interests at heart, and especially your health.
Yeah, because the actual the bar is so low in these industries, be it the European Union or people who actually gets to set the standard, be lobby groups and other people involved, that if you say it to the odd person, kind of, I'm not sure if it's good or bad for you, they kind of go, oh, well, it has the European Union stamp on it, or has been approved by this, this, and this. That all automatically in their mind sends off a signal, well, it's okay, I feel safe now, I'm taking it. Little do they know the actual what goes on behind the scenes, and it's far from safe.
Well, even when you say far from safe, I would say that in many cases, it's highly detrimental to your health. Even if it's got, I don't care who put their stamp on it, in nearly all cases, that stamp was bought. Like if I wanted to manufacture a supplement that I knew would develop the most toxicity in your body, and I wanted to get it approved, and I had an unlimited budget, I could get anything passed. You just have to find the right body that's willing to take the cash, and they'll just say, yeah, that's fine, go ahead, it ticks that box. And like people will look the other way, or they will generate the outcome that you're looking for. Years ago when I was doing the research from a book, one of the things I came across was there was this doctor, totally corrupt doctor, that was caught, that he had published the results that were given to him about the study that the pharmaceutical industry wanted him to do before the study even took place. And the study date was after the publication of the results date, and he was caught. And I meant to take it and write about it and stuff, and by the time I went back there, it had vanished, and I couldn't find it again. But that's not the exception to the rule. That is how it works in many, many cases. And people think, oh well, if they're looking after us, or the doctor says, or the surgeon general, or the chief medical officer, like these people are totally bought and paid for, totally corrupted, cannot be trusted. And like even when you look at them, you just know by looking at them, like they're just like, there's no congruency in what they're saying. They're just completely pumping out whatever they were told to say. And this is the thing. There's a lot of people on TV, they'll believe it. And if they don't hear it on TV, even if it was on every other platform and everybody else said it, they won't believe it, because it has to be on that square box before they give it any credibility.
Yeah. No, very true. Yeah. It's there's also things like why do you believe women get a lot of sort of breast cancer in areas like compared to men, for example? Is another kind of common one that people ask a lot about.
Yeah, well, so men still do get breast cancer, but it is quite rare. So many, many years ago, I did a radio show, maybe could be 5 or 6 years ago now, and it was how to reduce your risk of breast cancer by 95%. And so one of the reasons why women get breast cancer is, first of all, they're using synthetic bras. So synthetic bras have chemicals in them, like, from like nylon, rayon, polyester, viscose, and all those different things. And even cotton ones. Cotton is one of the dirtiest crops grown, and it takes more pesticides to grow cotton than I think virtually any other crop. So when you have a bra on it, that you're absorbing that again transdermally into your bloodstream through your skin. And the other thing as well is that those bras then hold the breast very tight and don't let the breast move naturally. So one of the things that people, when we want to eliminate toxins, we sweat it out, but the main place where we sweat is under our arms. So if you imagine your body's got a lot of toxicity and it wants to mobilize it and it wants to sweat it out, then you put in an antiperspirant, which blocks the sweating, and then a deodorant, that creates a fragrance. And your body can't then sweat that out. So what happens is that toxicity then ends up in all the lymph nodes around the breast tissue, in the lymph nodes and the breast tissue. Then because the breasts aren't moving, then you're not getting proper lymphatic drainage. And so then you have an accumulation of toxins there. Then when you're older, women get sent to do a mammogram. Now, a mammogram will give you a 40% false positive and a 40% false negative. What does that mean? It means that there's a 40% chance that you don't have cancer, and they will tell you do. Or it means that there's a 40% chance you have cancer, and then they're also squeezing the breast between two plates quite hard. Now, if you did have a tumor there and you squeeze that hard, you could burst the tumor, which will then let the cancer cells and whatever, like satellites, a satellite all around your body. And so you should never, ever use or do mammograms under any circumstances. There is a wonderful alternative called thermography, which can detect cancer cells, I think, at least 5 or 6 years before a mammogram can. It's completely non-invasive, and it's far, far more accurate. But, you know, so between mammograms, between nylon bras, and between antiperspirants, that's a massive factor. Then if you're not getting enough vitamin D and all that sort of stuff, then the other problem is underwired bras. So if you imagine an underwired bra, it has like a little U shape. That's like a little antenna that's absorbing the radiation if you're in a room that's full of Wi-Fi directly into your breast tissue. Then if you're on a plane, so for me to fly from here to LA, I can't remember exactly, but it's something like the equivalent of 20 chest x-rays. So if you're flying on a plane as well with your underwired bra, with your, and you know, for those people that are crazy enough to eat the aircraft food, I mean, if you must eat that food, make sure you always, even if you're a meat eater, make sure you always eat the vegetarian one, because the aircraft meat is just the nastiest, lowest form of food on the planet. And you want to avoid eating that stuff. But, you know, they're all large contributory factors. Then if you're taking lots of plastic, you're stressed, you know. A lot of people then have, I don't know, just very, very hectic lifestyles that really knock them out of balance. And for them, you know, when you add this all on top of the blue lights and, you know, the stress and the work and the lack of sleep and all the processed foods and everything else, then you've got all the toxins. Then you're creating an environment. That doesn't mean that you will get cancer. It just means that you're creating an optimal environment in which these diseases can flourish. And so it is, you know, cancer just doesn't come along and go, it's your number, right? Time's up. You know, if you trace back in the person's timeline, you'll see the stress, the processed foods, the alcohol, the sugar, the unresolved emotional issues, or, you know, they could have trauma from childhood, which is triggering stuff as well, or they can have incredibly limiting belief systems that just keep them in this misery or suffering. Or, you know, a lot of times people will get sick in life not because of anything other than what they believe about life. If you believe that once you hit 50, it's over for you, you'll find a way to start to close down. You'll find a way to get overweight and stressed and burnt out, and, you know, you'll be out of the game far quicker than the rest of us. So for me, you know, I plan to live to 150, and a lot of people may laugh, but you know what? Any other creature in nature usually lives about 7 times the amount of time it takes to reach maturity. And so the average human, you know, doesn't reach maturity really until they're about 20. So by default, we should live about 140 years. But the thing is, not with the modern world that we live in, where we're being bombarded with so many things that are invisible. And then it's not taking into account all this 5G insanity that they've been trying to roll out on us and stuff like that. And for me personally, I would never vaccinate anybody or anything for any reason at any time. But that's just my personal opinion. To me, vaccines are absolutely deadly, and I would touch them. But, you know, a lot of people would have other opinions. But from the research I've done, you've got all sorts of polysorbate 80, you've got ethylene glycol, you've got mercury, you've got all sorts of horrible, nasty toxins in there, aluminium as well, and all stuff. And so you don't want to inject foreign material into your body and then have a cytokine storm where it basically goes, oh shit, and has this huge reaction. And for me, I mean, it is a personal choice. I just think anybody in good conscience could never, ever vaccinate anybody or anything, because I think they're absolutely deadly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And any research, I've done quite a bit of extensive research on vaccines. There's the one they're talking about at the moment that they're trying to make mandatory, or it be the normal flu one that they come out with every season. It's not, if I was on my deathbed, would I touch any of those? And that's just me personally. Other people, they can do what they want. They can inject themselves if they want to all day long. But for any research I've done my own actual research on it and not just believe the headline. media outlets or the news itself and the mainstream narrative, because they're not for our health as they portray that image. But what I want to touch on slightly is what have you uncovered over all the massive research you've been doing over the last 15 years or so as linking charities in? People have obviously a lot to say about charities. They always complain that, oh, well, the head guy of it, he's getting 80% cut, and you know, the people in Africa are not actually really getting the full value if you give so much per month. Like, people set up accounts and they give maybe 10-15 pound a month out to starving children in Africa, but it never really meets the actual person out there overall. What did you find or uncover?
So to me, most charities, and I want to emphasize most charities, but not all charities, are horribly corrupt. The CEOs get incredible, immoral amounts of money. And a lot of times the administration costs of running the charity, you know, for every pound or euro you give, it'd be lucky if even 10% of that reached the people that it was supposed to reach. And the thing is, this is a charity, and all charities, they don't pay business rates. They are tax exempt and all that sort of stuff. So if you look at, they've got this unlimited cash flow with very low expenses, and they still manage to squander massive amounts of money. But it's also a front for very large business. And what they do is they basically put large amounts of money into a charity, or they'll set up a charity and they'll try to distance themselves forward, but they get to influence charity policy, and they get to portray that industry or that company in a very favorable light. So it's a cheap way of getting very positive marketing, or to significantly reduce or, you know, carry out damage limitation on something that is very detrimental to your health or the environment. And for me personally, I would never give any money to any charity under any circumstances unless I'm absolutely 100% certain that the charity has the utmost integrity and it is doing everything really ethically in every aspect of its endeavors. And for me, I would personally rather go and see the homeless person that was struggling for a meal, or to help somebody out, or do a gesture of goodwill, or go to a country that has an issue and help out or do something, but to give it to somebody thinking that they'll act on your behalf with integrity. It's a romantic notion, but to me, in my experience, most of those charities are really horribly corrupt, very unethical, and do very little other than create the illusion that they care about people. And the cancer charities, you think you're giving money to fight cancer and help cancer, and in most cases, all they're doing is funding more research on animals, and they're just keeping the old business model of making massive amounts of money alive, and they have no interest in anything that's alternative that could be incredibly effective. And they, like, there's a guy went to jail for a while, David Noakes, by selling GC math. This guy was having an incredibly high rate of success in helping people heal themselves, and in the end, like, they put him in jail, stole all his assets because he said he got them from the proceeds of crime. And the Medical Health Regulatory Authority in the UK wanted him to go to jail for, I think, was it 20 or 25 years. But in the end, he got out. You know, he got like a year, and he was on with an ankle bracelet, and then he was extradited. His partner was extradited to France and stuff. But this is so corrupt that this guy was doing something that was incredibly beneficial to humanity, and yet he went to jail because the whole Medical Health Regulatory Authority is it's all loaded with the people that make the money from all the other harmful, toxic solutions. And so they got to basically witch hunt the competition and got him prosecuted because he was doing something for the greater good. And so we just have a horrible, horrible society of regulators and charities who have virtually no accountability. And the only way we're going to get that back is by people awakening and just going, you know what? We need full disclosure and absolute transparency. And they don't do that. It's just, to me, giving money to charities, I can understand it. And, you know, I've done many charitable things in my life, but giving your money, you might as well go to the casino. The negative shit that they do, and a lot of these charities, you know, are promoting vaccines and promoting all sorts of shit that basically damages the human psyche, the human immune system, and the human spirit. And for me, I would say absolutely avoid them at all costs unless you're absolutely 100% certain and you've done your due diligence and you're sure without any shadow of a doubt that these people have integrity. But that's just my criteria and my perception. So, let your conscience be your guide.
What I'd actually like to finish on, Justin, is because I think it's a fascinating story, is your motorbike accident. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, to me, motorcycle accident was probably one of the wonderful experiences of my life, where basically I fell off a motorcycle and I broke my left arm. I ripped open my ring finger on my right hand and the tendons were hanging out, so I had to get 12 stitches in that. I had a hole in my right leg. I had whiplash, distortion, visual distortions, concussion, and I felt that the blood was draining out of my body. And when I basically come off a speed bump about 70 miles an hour. When I braked, the front wheel went out from under me. When I let go of the brake, I was able to recover the bike and get it up off the ground again and straight. But by the time I went to hit the brake again, I hit the curb on a corner and somersaulted over somebody's wall, took the railings off the wall with my hand without gloves on, and landed in the front garden, which was grass. But, I knew I was pretty shaken up. And I don't know if you've ever been at an accident, but, when you're there, a lot of people are losing their minds and they're panicking and all that sort of stuff. So I just had to get everybody calmed down because it was just too much bandwidth for me. So I realized I had about 30 seconds of consciousness left before I could just feel the life force draining out of me and I was closing down. And so my unconscious just said to me, sit down. When I sat down, I could feel the demand on me reduce significantly. And I remember at that time, my unconscious just went, right, go get me a glass of water, because many years ago, a drunk driver had hit me head on. And when they did, I felt really dizzy and sort of disorientated. And when somebody gave me a glass of water, I actually felt it really helped me and grounded me. So I sent somebody to get me the water. And when I got me the water, I drank the water. I actually felt that, it helped me. And I then knew that I wasn't going to pass out. So then I went and told one of the neighbors to go up because it was not that far away from my father's house. And I got my father to get me and to drive me across from where he was past 3 hospitals to get to the hospital that was closest to my house. So when I got in there, they put me on a stretcher for 5 hours because they thought I'd broken my back as well and they didn't want me to move. And if you imagine sitting there for 5 hours and, I was busting for a piss as well. So after I was x-rayed, they then wanted to stitch my hand up and they says, look, we want to give you morphine. I said, I don't want any. But this is the thing about this accident. I had no pain whatsoever because my unconscious, one of the things that had happened was that for many, many years, I'd been studying NLP, trance, hypnosis, altered states of consciousness. I had experiences with my psilocybin friends and had in other dimensions of awareness and stuff like that. And so I had this incredible, detailed intellectual understanding, but zero practical application. So whenever this happened, my unconscious just went to me, and it wasn't like dialogue, but it was just annoying or like a sort of a dialogue, but I just went, I'll handle this. So it was just like my thoughts, like a wheel spinning and somebody sticking a bar through the spokes, and it just stopped dead. And I just went, right. And I just trusted my unconscious to do it all. So when I did that, then I was able to go through that whole experience. And I had no pain whatsoever. But then they said to me, look, let's give you the morphine. And they went on and on and on for about half an hour. And in the end, I agreed that they could give me 50% of what was they originally wanted to give me. And I don't know if you've ever done morphine. I mean, some people love morphine. Like, I hate it. I just don't like anything that takes you down. And I just felt like I wanted to go to sleep and lie down. And it's just not my kind of substance. I like to go up, open my mind, go to other dimensions and sort of connect with higher levels of awareness and have insights and realizations and stuff like that. So to me, going the other direction was an absolute no-no. So in the end, they eventually let me off the bed. And after getting, so I mean, my left arm was broken. My right hand was like, the tendons were hanging out that stitched me up. So when I went to the toilet, I couldn't even open my trousers. So I had to go and get the assistance of a nurse, and she had to come in and sort of unzip me and sort of help me get it together, you know. Like, I didn't want the help, but I just absolutely, on a basic level of functionality, needed it, you know. And so eventually I got that. I got actually home that night around midnight, and I've never taken a sick day in my life, but I took 2 days off there. And so I then went, that happened on a Sunday, and then went back to work on a Wednesday, back to my business. And they then wanted me to come for physiotherapy, you know, because they told my right finger that because my finger was sewn up like a banana shape, that it probably will never straighten. And this is the power of programming from the health people. And I just went, I says, that bullshit's never been accepted by me as a program. And I went into a hot bath every single night, as hot as I could tolerate it. And I sat with my ass on the top of the knuckle and leaned on it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, as much as I could, to stretch it but not damage it. You know, I just took it to the threshold, which I thought, and I have a good intuition with my body. And I did that. And they told me I was going to go back to the gym after 3 weeks. And they said, there's no way you can go back to the gym after 3 weeks. But I knew my body was fine. They said it takes 6 weeks to 3 months for it to heal. So I waited the first day of the sixth, or no, sorry. The first day of the 7th week. So after 6 weeks, I just went back to the gym, just started working out. I just knew it was fine. And so I was able to have this wonderful healing experience with zero pain and incredible, very, very fast healing. So then, you know, I also then decided that I wanted to get all this mercury out of my teeth. So I thought, well, if under like traumatic situations, could I go to the dentist and have the mercury removed without any anesthetic? So this was like, let's try this. So I went into the dentist. And now, just to give an example, I had a tooth removed many years ago, and it took 13 injections to numb the tooth because my tooth was so sensitive. So I have incredibly sensitive teeth. So I went in and I says, look, can you take the mercury out? And he says, right, that's okay. I says, I want to do it without any anesthetic. He says, right, that's okay. So I did it. But what I did was I hypnotized myself. And what I realized under hypnosis was that 80% is the perception of the pain and only 20% is the actual pain. So if you were not looking and I walked up behind you and I stuck a needle into your arm, you would jump and you'd feel a certain level of pain. So I walked up to you and I said, Chris, look, I've got this really sharp needle. I'm going to stick it into your arm. And when I stick it in your arm, it's really going to hurt. You know, and I stuck it in the arm, the pain that you would feel because of your preconceived idea of what is going to happen would amplify the pain massively based on your perception. So I realized that at 20% of pain, which was still really uncomfortable, not nice, you know, I could bear it, but it was like not nice. So he did the 2, but the bottom tooth was bleeding a lot. And he says, look, I want to do the top 2 now on the same side. He says, but your mouth was bleeding really badly. So I'd like to give you one there. And I just went, plus it was a bit sore. And I says, how long does it take for the anesthetic to work? He says, about 3 to 5 minutes. I says, well, you just go ahead and do that. And I says, if I need you to stop, I'll get you to stop. And I just went to me unconscious. I said, unconscious, I want you to completely control the pain so there's no pain whatsoever, and that you can control the bleeding so I don't bleed unless it's a necessary part of the healing process, because you don't want to stop something that may be very important. So you have to be very ethical with yourself and with other people if you're doing any hypnotic or any changing in how they're programmed or how they see the world. Or you could set up, you think you're helping somebody, but you could be actually causing them a harm further on down the line that you can't see in your consciousness at that time. But so I did that, and I says, what do you need me to do for you? And it said, don't eat any crap for 3 days, because back then my diet wasn't as good as it is now. And so I was able to have the tooth done, stop the bleeding, and feel zero pain. I'm talking not even 1% of pain, and have 2 mercury fillings done on the top without that. But then a lot of years later, I had to do a root canal, which I want to emphasize, I would recommend nobody ever does a root canal. They're very harmful. I think they are the only thing that you leave a dead organ in your body. But when you have a strong functioning immune system, it will kill that sort of stuff. But if you have a very compromised or very weakened immune system, the bacteria that can live in there could come out and really wreak havoc in your body. But I was able to have that root canal done, And at that time, in my consciousness, that's, I thought that was acceptable. If I had to do one now, I would really have to evaluate that very deeply, and it would only in a very exceptional circumstances would I ever consider it. But in general, I would say you shouldn't do them. And I was able to then do the root canal, and where I said to the dentist, how long does it take to take the nerve out? And he says, about 30 seconds. But when he did it, it actually took about 3 minutes because it was a double root, and he had to drill, and it's just like, you can imagine the whole canal is just like, and you can just feel the whole head shaking and reaming out. But I felt no pain whatsoever. And I actually got 2 root canals done without any anesthetic, and I felt no pain. I mean, no pain whatsoever. I can't do the pain. I can't do dental pain. But so that's how I learned to do the stuff in the dentist by accident, which at the time seemed very negative. But how many times in life do we have a very negative situation that we perceive at that time, only to realize years or decades later that it was a beautiful gift dressed up, that we didn't see it at that time because we hadn't got the clarity of mind to understand it?
It's really fascinating. I know a lot of people now listening or watching in are going to be going, how the hell did he actually do that? Like, it's
So this is how you cultivate a relationship with your unconscious mind if you want to learn to do this. So if you had a headache, most people would shoot the messenger with 2 painkillers. And so the unconscious goes, there's an idiot driving the bus. We're not giving you any control because we're trying to warn you about something and all you do is shoot us. So when you do get that beautiful feedback, you go, thank you, unconscious. What is it that I need to understand? Am I dehydrated? Am I stressed? Am I toxic? Do I need to get birth food? Whatever it is. Have I had something dodgy? Am I hungry? Am I overfed? Whatever it is. If you meditate or tune into that, you will get the perfect feedback. But we live in this nanosecond world where people want instant gratification and they want to have the quick fix, and they've been brainwashed when pain strikes, hit back where it hurts with this new and improved horrible formula, it'll blow the brains out of you, but this is what we're being marketed to. And so, or what they're marketing to us. And so ultimately people have lost the beautiful feedback loop or mechanism. So I never get headaches ever under any circumstances. I just don't. But I remember once a few years ago getting the slightest start of a headache, and I just went, thank you, unconscious, what is it? And so I took my socks and shoes off, lay barefoot on the grass, and after 10 minutes, it just disappeared completely. And what it was really telling me was that I was pushing to get something like a very heavy manual job done. And I had sort of set like an unreasonable workload demand for that day instead of just doing what I could. And so there was this unconscious resistance building because it knew that it was taking too much of a demand to fulfill this. And so that's where the stress and tension started to build. And so I just went, thank you, unconscious. Then went back and just took it down a gear, just relaxed and just turned it back into like a Zen meditation where I just got into a state of grace. I was actually building 2 gate posts, and each gate post was 5 tons each. And so it took me several months, going down to do these things and stuff. But in the end, I got them done and I got them sorted. And that was just the only time I ever got a headache in probably the last 10 years or more. And in the end, I got the feedback and that was it, sorted perfectly. So my unconscious will trust me because it knows it can give me a certain command over pain because I won't abuse it. Where most people that go, oh, there's something wrong, we'll switch the pain off. And that could be a sore knee and you're trashing your knee joint and you're not getting the feedback, where it knows that it can turn the pain off because it knows I have the consciousness to not violate or damage that knee because I will walk in a way that will protect it incredibly well. And once it understands that you've taken steps to remedy it, even though you haven't resolved it, and you're conscious to do that, it will allow you to have more control over your functionality because most people don't have that awareness within. And it only allows me control over it because it knows I'm doing it consciously. I'm requesting its help. And like, there is no real conscious, non-conscious. It's just like a metaphor for understanding the mechanics of how we process and stuff like that. But that is a very powerful way to start to cultivate that relationship. And if you do, you will realize that you'll start to have more and more command over your body, until at one stage, hopefully, you can go to the dentist and say, look, I want you to control the pain. But you have to do it with absolute congruency, with absolute certainty. And I mean, there are times when I'm going in initially, especially if I haven't been for 6 months and something's damaged my tooth, I'm thinking, you know, will it work or will it not and stuff. It always works. And I mean, I haven't had any injections in 10 years, but there's been times where I haven't been in as resourceful a state as I need to be. So one of the things, if I know I'm going to the dentist, I will meditate probably for an hour before I go, to get the rapport back with the unconscious and have the intention. And I even feel sometimes my face goes totally numb, as if I was being injected with the anesthetic, you know, and I can feel my whole nose and nasal cavity going numb and stuff. But it doesn't do it all the time. It's just whatever it feels it needs to do to regenerate that experience. So, you know, it is one of those things that, you know, if you want to do that, that is the stepping stone in the path in the right direction that will help you, you know, sort of, if you want to manifest that goal as a reality.
And just to finish on two final little points, what health advice would you give people to on a daily basis that the average person can do? And what does the road look like ahead for Justin? Is there going to be a book part 2?
So if you want to have outstanding health and vitality, there's really about 4 or 5 things you really need to do. You really, most importantly of all, you need to deal with unresolved emotional issues. If you don't feel you're a good person, if you're angry, if you're resentful, if you're jealous, if you're frustrated, those emotions are very negative and they create lots of acidity in the body and they compromise the immune system. So you need, most importantly, to deal with the unresolved emotional issue. Secondly, you need to drink really high quality water. It's water that's been properly filtered, because, you know, the water's fluoridated or chlorinated, or they've got chloralamine in it and all sorts of crap. So we want to get that. We want a really good high quality water. We need to exercise. Our bodies are not designed to sit on a sofa for 10 hours every day. We need to exercise, and we need to put a significant demand on our bodies, especially heavy weights. And that's a really great way of preventing osteoporosis and, you know, great cardiovascular health and that sort of stuff as well. Then we want to eat really, really high quality, nutritious food, preferably raw, preferably organic, preferably in season, as much as we possibly can. If you must eat meat, try and get organic meat, or one that is not like pumped full of chemicals and hormones and steroids and growth promoters and all sorts of other crap. And the other thing that's really important is we need to cleanse our body and get the toxins out. So that's doing a liver cleanse, that's doing saunas. You can do dry brushing. You want to drink lots of green juices as well, which are really nourishing and stuff like that. And if you do those components, do as many of them as you can, and really research what you're eating. You know, to me, you're really setting the game up to win. Get away from the Wi-Fi, stop using a cell phone, or, you know, don't carry it in your purse or set it down on loudspeaker. Get rid of the LED bulbs and put in the old incandescent bulbs. And if you do that, you know, that's a big, large chunk that is massive, that can really absolutely transform your life and allow you to absolutely thrive in this toxic world. And for me, the road ahead, yes, I've been trying to write a second book about the war on health or something along those lines. And just recently, for this last few months, I've just been so busy doing stuff that I just can't get near it. But yeah, I would like to write a good lot of books. I would like to write at least 10 books. I bought the domain healththemovie.com, so I want to make a movie about health whenever that comes together and I get the funding for that. And to me, my journey is about the expansion of my consciousness, and I just can't do this crazy reality. You know, I'm not participating in it, and I just want to vacate it. And I choose not to use their services or engage with them or want to have anything really to do with it. But, you know, for me, I just want to traverse this world peacefully and freely in whatever way I want. And I wish everybody the freedom and joy, because this dog eat dog, like destroying the planet over for wealth, over finite resources, it's just a formula that is absolutely designed to massively fail. And we need to make a radical shift in our thinking. And if we don't, you know, it's not going to look too good for the human race, I don't think, from my perspective.
Justin, it's been a pleasure, and I want to thank you so much for giving me so much of your time as well. I know the viewers will love the amount of vast information you have given us, in depth detail you give it us is just unbelievable and incredible. So I want to thank you very much.
No, and thanks for having us, Chris. It's been a pleasure, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. Sure, we'll see how we get on and where the journey takes us.
Exactly, for sure. We'll be in touch. You've been watching Mind Wars. Thanks for watching and listening. Please like, subscribe, and share to my channel. It really helps with the algorithms. Until next time, see ya.